looking a little bit shaggy. We're gonna have to take care of that. So before we get into this video, if you guys want to check out my link tree and check out my filmography, you definitely can. You can check out my short films. You can also log them and rate them on Letterboxd. It'd mean the world to me. Also, my film Pesadilla is officially out on Amazon if you want to check it out. I'm not sure about streaming when it's coming out yet, but it will be coming out on Blu-ray in December. So if you want to check that out, definitely do so. Hit that like and subscribe button. And today we are talking about Anora. This was one of my most anticipated films of the year. There is no doubt about it. I love Sean Baker. I enjoy his films, even back to Takeout. I just think that he is a great director. He's got a lot of spirit. He really does in a weird way. Just in a weird way. He reminds me a little bit of almost a mixture between something like Wim Wenders and maybe something like John Cassavetes. These little things, I can't really explain it, but he just does. And if you look at his other films like Tangerine, which I'm going to name off the three that people are probably the most familiar with, like Tangerine, which was shot on an iPhone. Then you have The Florida Project, and then you have, which also some of that was shot on a phone towards the end. And then you have Red Rocket. He has a very interesting style where every one of his films involves something along the lines of certain type of work. Don't know if I can say it on YouTube. And then poverty is always usually sort of a subject matter. And his films are very Americana. They're very American in terms of usually I don't want to necessarily say it sort of deconstructs the American dream, but what his films do is they sort of show you the American dream through other people's eyes, I guess you could say. Whether or not that's straightforward or not, it's just sort of how I interpret some of the things, especially given some of his last films. And what Anora is about is Mickey Madison plays Anora. She is a certain type of worker, and she finds this Russian guy, Ivan. I think that's how you say his name. She speaks Russian. He wants somebody that can speak Russian, and they end up developing this relationship. It's a very strange relationship, especially in the beginning. But then as things become more clear, they sort of get a little bit close to each other. They never really get too close, which I won't spoil anything, but they get to the point to where they eventually get married, and Ivan, his parents are not happy about it. They're pretty wealthy, they're pretty powerful people, and they're trying to get it annulled. That's all I'm going to say. Because one thing about Anora that I was not expecting, especially with the runtime, is how contained the film actually is. I mean, besides shooting in the streets of New York or New Jersey, and then going to Las Vegas, which all of those end up really just being sort of a montage, a lot of the film is set in Ivan's house, or it's set in the clubs, or it's set in the car. I was actually surprised how much of the film was actually set in the car. So I don't want to necessarily say it's a simple film. It's a simple film in terms of location, but it's complex in terms of storytelling. There is a specific part in the film, which I won't spoil, but it involves Anora in Ivan's house with a group of guys, and it lasts for what feels like, I would say, 30 minutes. I mean, it felt like a long time. It might not be 30 minutes. I'd be shocked if it was it though, but I was very much so entertained the whole time. This is definitely Sean Baker's best film so far, and I do think in a way Sean Baker has sort of come full circle with sort of his themes that he tackles, and I would love to see for his next film him do something else. I would like to see, in terms of storytelling, I would love to see a certain type of film from Sean Baker, whether or not he goes for another comedy, whether or not he goes for maybe a crime film, maybe he goes for a horror film. I would like to see him try something different, because I do think Anora is this full circle moment, which is a very deserved full circle moment, because the dude's been making films for a very long time, and it really is just a culmination of a bunch of his other works into one. But Mickey Madison as Anora is fantastic. She is great. I know a lot of people are saying she's the front runner for Best Actress, and a lot of people are saying that Anora is the front runner for Best Picture, which I think that Anora, I'm trying to decide where I would put it. It's either 2 or 3 so far of 2024 for me. But again, on a rewatch, it could actually go to number 1, because I seriously love the film a lot. But I would have to think on it a little bit more. But it's definitely up there. It's my second favorite film of the year, I think. Because I guess I'll remove disclaimer because the final episode comes out tomorrow, which I'll talk about that, and it's really good. But one thing I'm very curious about is how the general audience is going to react to Anora, because so far the only people that's really seen the film are film lovers, people that are a fan of Sean Baker's films, festival goers, and critics. I really am very curious to see what the general audience is going to think of this film, because it is a little bit long. There are periods of time where I wouldn't necessarily say the pacing is off, but the pacing definitely does sort of change throughout the film. Like, the film can go from serious to slapstick in an instant, and there's a few scenes towards the end that very much so take a strong, I would say heavy methodical approach. And I am just curious to see what a general audience member would think about that, because for some, 2 hours is not that long for a film, but to others it is. And I would say that Anora would definitely feel on the longer side of that spectrum, just from it being 2 hours to a general audience member, I'm sure. But again, you also have films coming out like Amelia Perez and The Brutalist, so that have not been released to general audiences. So again, you never know. Like Gladiator 2, everybody's dad is probably going to love that film. So we'll have to see. We'll see what the audiences think of Anora. I hope they really like it. I personally loved it. I think it is an amazing film. I think the cinematography is standout. It looks beautiful. I saw a few people say it was a little bit inconsistent because it would go from like a static cam to handheld, and then they do this weird thing with zooms. And to me, I think that was just sort of showing the emotion and the journey. I don't think that it was necessarily going for a specific look in terms of how the camera moved. I just think the camera moved the way it needed to move for each scene. I personally liked it. And the soundtrack. There's a lot of songs in this, which is crazy. Like in the credits, like all the songs that pop up there was a lot. But the song in the trailer didn't play from Blondie, which I was very upset about. I don't know. I like that song. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, maybe subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Anora down in the comments below. Also, let me know what your favorite Sean Baker film is. And also, check out my film. But anyway, take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time.